hometown, your hometown station.
Hey there, everybody. This is KHTS News Director Michael Brown here. Thank you for joining us. I'm sure you heard just before my other news director, Devin Miller, doing an interview. We're just having a day of interviews today. We're getting everybody that we can who's running for the 38th Assembly District here in the Santa Clarita Valley, the Ventura County line, a little bit of the Antelope Valley as well. We're getting them in here to share their views and share who they are, so that way you're better informed come March 3rd. So sitting with me here today is Annie Cho. Annie, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, very nice to be here.
Now, for those who may not be familiar with you or your campaign, kind of tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're running.
I am running to make sure that you and I can continue to raise our families in our communities and that we can all thrive. I'm a resident of the district for 26 years, and I love living here.
So we talked a little bit before here about your favorite parts of Santa Clarita specifically.
Yeah.
What's your favorite part of the district as a whole?
This district has unique features, I think more so than other districts, because it includes a part of City of Los Angeles, parts of LA County, and parts of Ventura County. And so I can go to 6, 7, even 10 different communities and feel like I'm in a different world, really. And so it's been wonderful to go out to Agua Dulce and see people whose source of water is the well on their property. It's been nice to go out to Stevenson Ranch and from one end to the other end. And of course, I live in Porter Ranch. And so, Porter Ranch, Granada Hills, and Simi Valley all have different flavor, if you will.
Gotcha. So moving more to sort of political talk, that's what we're here for. What are your three key issues going into Assembly?
I want to make sure that our public education is fully funded. I support strengthening Prop 98, which is the minimum government guarantee for public education. I want to use that as the floor and not the ceiling. And I want to make sure that our children and young adults have a chance to be educated and trained so that they can become members of the middle class in our society. And I also want to work on developing a regional transportation plan, because Los Angeles County Board of Directors recently approved the Tojon Ranch project development. And so we're expecting another 20,000 cars. So if you think traffic is bad now, we haven't seen anything yet. But what I want to do is to bring together all the stakeholders and have a regional mass transit plan that includes a funding mechanism, so that we can actually get the plan implemented in 10 years, right? I think so many times we have a plan, but we've not identified funding sources, and so we can't implement it. And so I want to make sure that we are in line with getting our plans in motion. And the other thing is climate change and wildfires. Many of us have gone through wildfires, and it's happening way too closer to our homes and too often. Just a couple of months ago, my husband and I had to evacuate in the middle of the night during the Saddle Ridge fire. I mean, this is happening, and we are 2 freeways over, another 10 miles in. So, imagine that when you're about to go to bed and you're thinking, well, that's far away. And then in the middle of the night, you're having to, leave your house in a hurry. So I want to make sure that we have enough resources to fund our firefighters and update our equipment. And I want to make sure that our homeowners continue to keep their fire insurance. That's very, very important. So we have to mitigate, but we also have to make sure that we have plans in place so that our people are protected.
Yeah, I remember that Saddle Ridge fire. Actually, I was working the night shift, and our night shift usually ends at 9 o'clock, and the fire was reported at 9:01.
Yeah.
So I sent the other people who work with me at night home. I said, hey, I'll just listen to this, see if it's anything.
Right.
And sure enough, it was an 8-hour shift turned into a 21-hour shift
Right.
because of that. That was some insane stuff. Speaking of terms of environment, though, we have a lot of open space here in the
Yes.
district. What role do you see yourself as an assembly member for the state of California playing in preserving open space, using that open space appropriately? What's kind of your stance on that?
Yeah, so I want to make sure that we continue to protect green space, and also to make sure that we continue to fight to preserve Rim of the Valley legislation. It's the so-called Feinstein-Schiff legislation, and there's also Judy Chu and Kamala Harris. They've also introduced legislation to protect the San Gabriel Mountains. And so I want to make sure that we fight to keep the way our life is in our district, and also to make sure that we actively fight for mitigating dangers that encroach on that lifestyle.
Right. And so now, in terms of wildfires, though, and protecting against that, how do you see yourself helping with that while also preserving open space? Kind of tell me a little bit about that.
Right. So, as far as the wildfires go, I think right now we need to take another look at requiring the utilities to take some immediate measures. For example, insulating power poles. That is number one priority. And that is just one step, though. That cannot be a fix-all, I've done my thing by insulating 2 poles. That is, no can do. But we also need to require the utilities to look at vegetation mitigation programs. Currently, they have a annual plan where they look at high fire-prone areas and they determine where to dispatch their crew to mitigate. And I am telling you, why are we waiting a year? We have drones, my goodness, we have modern technology. Why are we waiting a year? We can do this in a matter of weeks. High fire-prone areas. I mean, look at today. It's a beautiful day, but it's much warmer than, our average February day. And with winds, there could be another fire. So why are we waiting? We need to speed that up, and we need to go from management-based to risk-based. Right? So those are the kind of things that I want to work with utilities and make sure that we have a plan in place where we can implement it and make sure that we protect our green space.
Gotcha. Now, earlier you mentioned transportation,
Yeah.
adding 20,000 extra cars onto the road. We have plenty of traffic reporters here who
Yes.
are not looking forward to that. We have 2 of the busiest freeways in the state, if not the
Right,
country, running through our
right.
district. Of course, I'm talking about the 5 and the
Yes.
14.
Yes.
What would you do as an assembly member if elected to kind of help with that? What sort of improvements can be made? What kind of policies can be instated to improve driving conditions for everyone, including the 20,000 plus new drivers?
So I want to make sure that, especially when it comes to the 5 and the 14, I've driven on it many, many times. And, I want to leave all our options open, including having a truck lane, and a trucks only lane. I mean, there's a lot of trucks that go through on the 14, and it's actually quite dangerous. And so we want to make sure that if they can have their dedicated lanes, that would minimize rest of the traffic having to slow down to accommodate slow-moving trucks ahead. And another thing is we really have to figure out what is our mass transit plan. We need to get people out of cars, more people out of cars, because you and I driving alone just to go 2 miles, taking 30 minutes, is ridiculous. And it's only going to get worse. And I remember, I'm a working mom, and I remember when my son was the first one to be dropped off at his preschool and last one to be picked up, and I only work 15 miles away. But because I was sitting in traffic, I was stuck in traffic, this is how we had to live. And so, this is something that we must fix.
Gotcha. Now, the first thing you said, and it piqued my interest as soon as you said it, was education.
Yeah.
Seems to be one of your top priorities going in. You talked a little bit about, I think, Prop 98, you said. Talk to me a little bit more about, how that we can improve the state's education system. I looked, and in 2019, California was ranked, I believe, number 21 in the country for education. What can we do to crack the top 20, even the top 10?
Well, I want us to be top 5. I want our young people to be members of the next generation workforce that can be globally competitive. I want everybody in the world to come to our district, to Santa Clarita Valley, and say, you know what, this is where we're going to find the best, the brightest. And in order for us to get there, we have to make sure that we invest in our public education system. I'm an immigrant. I came here when I was in the 5th grade. I did not speak a word of English. I did not even have an American name. I was extremely lucky because my teachers in public schools were able to give me the attention that I needed to get off the ground. And in 3 months, I was able to learn English.
That's incredible.
Right? So in 3 months, and then, I worked 2 jobs to get myself through Cal State LA. And, that was just a few years ago. And back then, I was able to afford to do it. But right now, you can work 10 jobs. And you won't be able to go to, community college or to a Cal State school or UC school. And, therein lies the problem. So there are so many aspects of our education system that we must fix. And that's what I'm going to fight for.
Now, in terms of maybe not college education, but maybe high school, middle school, what role do you see charter schools playing in that?
We are extremely lucky in our district to have excellent schools. We are extremely lucky in that, and so we want to make sure that we work with public schools and continue to provide the opportunities and education. And by the same time, we want to make sure that our teachers are fully supported as well. You know, there's a problem when our teachers cannot live near the schools where they teach. I mean, isn't that a problem?
Yeah, probably
Right?
for anyone. I mean,
And you know,
anybody working, right?
teachers would be able to spend a little bit more time on campus, you know, maybe being a little bit more available with their students and just having, you know, less stress. My gosh, you know? And so I want to make sure that we focus on even pre-kindergarten, right? Because society is changing so fast that even a 3-year-old is now looking at a cell phone, you know, the child's dad or mom's cell phone and looking at, what is this? And I want to play with this, right? And so I want to be able to create an environment where our youngsters can have an opportunity to nurture their emotional and mental health, you know, and learn how to interact with other people, right? So I want to make sure that we start early on, you know, pre-K, if you will, and to make sure that we nurture our young people, you know, from the moment they enter a so-called learning institution or learning experience to have that.
Right, and then you mentioned public schools on that, but with the same sort of support, you think, does charter schools play in that as well? What do you think in terms of state sponsorship, not state sponsorship, but state, you know, support should charter school be given?
Well, I think that charter schools need to be more transparent. And again, in our district, we do not have a need for that many charter schools as we do in other communities where there are more families of disadvantaged income and marginalized communities. So we are very lucky in that sense. But I think that charter schools have to be subjected to enrolling everybody, you know, not just being handpicking, you know, just a few that they want to enroll. And I think that public schools as a whole is an opportunity where our communities can gather and feel like a community. There's a camaraderie there. So that's the environment that I want to preserve.
Gotcha. Well, this has been Michael Brown talking with Annie Cho, who's running for Assembly coming up here, special election on March 3rd, the primary. Annie, is there anywhere anybody can go check out to read more about you or your campaign?
Yes. Wow, that sounds like this interview is about to end. I'm having such a great time. My website is anniecho4assembly.com. I'm very proud to say that I am the leading Democrat candidate for the assembly race, and I have been endorsed by the Signal. And I am extremely, extremely happy to have visited and met with so many people in Santa Clarita Valley. And you've really opened your arms and to welcome me. And I'm looking forward to coming back after March 3rd and continuing our conversation. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us.